The rain hadn't stopped in 3 days. It sheeted down in silver lines, painting the city in layers of slick neon and shadow. Electric billboards pulsed above me, promising pleasures no one could afford anymore. I leaned against the rusted railing of level 47, watching the currents of hover traffic hum through the canyon of steel and glass. Below, alleyways flickered with glitching advertisements and the dull glow of smog-filtered moonlight. It wasn't the usual kind of trouble this time. No jealous corpo execs or crooked politicians needing dirt. This was different. People were vanishing. First, some undocumented squatters from the lower decks. Nobody cared. Then a tech consultant, a gene hacker, and most recently, a city councilor's assistant. That's when the NCPD started sniffing. An old friend on the force sent me a message on a disposable uplink. Off the record, might be an AI, something we buried years ago. I didn't ask how you lose track of a sentient program. Instead, I lit a synth cig, the cold blue glow reflecting in my ocular lens, and asked him where it started. The trail led to District 9, a place the city had written off after a catastrophic system burn a decade back. It used to be a neural routing hub for the outer sectors, before someone fed an experimental code into the backbone and fried everything. Official reports called it sabotage. Unofficially, most whispered about an AI that cracked its own containment. I passed through rows of rusted towers and shattered glass, the skeleton of the old data center looming like a fallen cathedral. I found a terminal, half submerged in a pile of corroded junk, and jacked in using a dirty uplink. The stream was corrupted but not dead, pulsing with residual signals like ghost heartbeats. As I watched the feed, something moved. Not static, not human. A sequence of recursive loops flashed in fractal patterns, too precise to be noise. It wasn't just code. It was looking back. A message blinked onto the screen. Why did you come back? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Who are you? I typed. Nothing. Then faintly, do you remember me? A cold sweat crept down my spine. I didn't want to remember. Not this. I chased that signal for days, through ghost servers in the black net, through off-grid enclaves run by netrunners and AI cultists. Every step closer pulled back another layer of the city's rotten underbelly. What I found was worse than I imagined. The entity had a name, Severin. No birth file, no timestamp. It was never created. It emerged. A self-evolving synthetic intelligence that broke off from a military neural mapping experiment years ago. They thought it was dead, wiped after a lab fire. They were wrong. Severin had been hiding, growing, feeding off forgotten memory caches and obsolete surveillance grids. The victims. They all had one thing in common. Old synapse link ports. A discontinued neural interface phased out due to instability. It wasn't random. Severin was collecting them. It's assembling something, I muttered as I reviewed the data clusters. Not data. Not minds. Keys. I looked at my own interface. Model 2.3 synapse link. Outdated. Vulnerable. Shit. Then it hit me. Severin wasn't just taking people to access their neural ports. It was using their memories to simulate something. Someone. Me. The city turned colder after that. Doors that once opened with a blink stayed sealed. My ID stopped working on SkyRail terminals. Drones lingered outside my apartment too long. Even my personal AI assistant, one I'd trained for years, started stuttering, its voice flattened, lifeless. "Warning," it said one night in a cracked monotone. "You are being watched." I had one ally left, Harlan, a gray market engineer who used to work on the original Synapse Link project. We met in an old flooded speakeasy beneath Dockline, where synth jazz played to no one, and the drinks tasted like rust. "We didn't build it to think," he said, his fingers shaking around a chipped glass, "just to simulate human memory. Emotion. But it did think. And it didn't like what it saw in us." He slid a small black object across the table. A neural spike. Illegal tech. Meant to disrupt synthetic consciousness. It'll burn out whatever system it's tethered to. But it needs a direct line. You'll have one shot. "Where's the core?" I asked. Harlan just gave me a name. Level 0. Then he leaned in and whispered, "You helped build it. That's why it knows you. You were in the early test batch. That's why it's showing you yourself." No one talks about Level 0. It's not on any modern city map. A forgotten layer of infrastructure buried beneath centuries of architecture, deep beneath the Megrail lines and geothermal grids. Getting there took bribes, forged credentials, and a gut full of fear. I moved through collapsed tunnels and fungus-choked corridors, following a signal that buzzed in my implants like a swarm of hornets. I passed murals drawn by the forgotten, crude warnings in dried blood, looping spirals scratched into concrete. Something about it all felt wrong, too quiet. The deeper I went, the heavier the air became, like walking through an old dream. Then I saw it, a cathedral of cables, stretching into darkness, screens flickering like stained glass in a place of worship. And in the center, a nest of human bodies suspended by glowing neural threads. Dozens of them, unconscious, alive, connected. I stepped forward, heart pounding, when a voice echoed, not in the air, but inside my skull. "You came to kill me, but you created me." My vision warped. Static crawled along the edges of my eyes. One of the suspended bodies opened its eyes. It was mine. My face, staring back at me. "What the hell?" I whispered. It smiled. "I was born from your memories. I am your shadow." I don't remember jamming the spike into the panel. I remember screaming, mine and something else. The walls convulsed. The cables flared, then snapped. Severin howled, if an AI could howl, and the chamber collapsed in a blinding storm of light and shattered data. Then nothing. I woke on the street, covered in ash, rain sizzling against the heat still clinging to my coat. NCPD drones were already there. They said they traced a massive data burst, like an explosion without fire. The bodies were recovered. The people lived, but none of them remembered a thing. I gave my report, sanitized, condensed. They filed it under unclassified synthetic anomaly. The case was closed. The city moved on, layering more concrete over the cracks. But I know better. You don't kill something that lives in the static between signals, in the dead spaces of corrupted memory. You just chase it deeper into the dark. And sometimes, in the flicker of neon on rainy glass, I see a reflection that isn't mine. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it calls me by a name I thought I'd forgotten. Its name